Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Hasil the Lab 1. Pip Meets are convicts. On Christmas Eve around 1812, Pip, an orphan about 7 years old, unexpectedly meets an escaped prisoner in the village churchyard while visiting the graves of his parents and siblings. The convict scares Pip into stealing food and tools from Pip's hot-tempered elder sister and her amiable husband, Gargery, are blacksmiths who have taken the orphan in. On early Christmas morning, Pip returns with a file, a pie and brandy, though he fears being punished. During Christmas dinner that evening, at the moment Pip's theft is about to be discovered, soldiers arrive and ask Joe to mend some shackles. Joe and Pip accompany them as they recapture the convict, who is fighting with another escaped convict. The first convict confesses to stealing food from the smithy, clearing Pip of suspicion. A few years pass. Miss Havisham, a wealthy, reclusive spinster who was jilted as the altar and still wears her old wedding dress, lives in the dilapidated Jaggers House. She asks Mr. Pumblechook, a relation of the Gargery, to find a boy to visit her. Pip visits Miss Havisham and falls in love with Estella, her adopted daughter. Estella remains aloof and hostile to Pip, which Miss Havisham encourages. Pip visits Miss Havisham regularly until he is old enough to learn a trade. Joe accompanies Pip for the last visit when she gives money for Pip to be bound as an apprentice blacksmith. Joe's surly assistant, George Orlick, is envious of Pip and dislikes Mrs. Joe. When Pip and Joe are away from the house, Mrs. Joe is brutally attacked, leaving her unable to speak or do her work. Orlick is suspected of the attack. Mrs. Joe becomes kind-hearted but brain-damaged after the attack. Pip's former schoolmate Biddy joins the household to help with her care. 4 years into Pip's apprenticeship, Mr. Jaggers, a lawyer, informs him that he has been provided with money from an anonymous patron, allowing him to become a gentleman. Pip is to leave for London, but presuming that Miss Havisham is his benefactress, he first visits her. Pip sets up house in London at Bernard's Inn with Herbert Pocket, the son of his tutor Matthew Pocket, who is a cousin of Miss Havisham. Herbert and Pip have previously met at Satis Hall, where Herbert was rejected as a playmate for Estella. He tells Pip how Miss Havisham was defrauded and deserted by her fiancé. Pip meets fellow pupils, Bantry Drummond, a brute of a man from a wealthy noble family, and startup, who is agreeable. Jaggers disburses the money Pip needs. When Joe visits Pip at Bernard's Inn, Pip is ashamed of him. Joe relays a message from Miss Havisham that Estella will be at Satis' house for a visit. Pip returns there to meet Estella and is encouraged by Miss Havisham, but he avoids visiting Joe. He is disquieted to see Orlick now in service to Miss Havisham. He mentions his misgivings to Jaggers, who promises Orlick's dismissal. Back in London, Pip and Herbert exchange their romantic secrets. Pip adores Estella and Herbert is engaged to Clara. Pip meets Estella when she is sent to Richmond to be introduced into society. Pip and Herbert build up debts. Mrs. Joe dies and Pip returns to his village for the funeral. Pip's income is fixed at £500 per annum, When he comes of age at 21 with the help of Jaggers' clerk, Wemmick, he plans to help advance Herbert's future prospects by anonymously securing him a position with the shipbroker Claricers. He takes Estella to Sattie's house. She and Miss Havisham quarrel over Stella's coldness. In London, Bantry Drummond outrages Pip by proposing a toast to Estella. Later, at an assembly ball in Richmond, Pip witnesses Estella meeting Bantry Drummond and warns her about him. She replies that she has no qualms about entrapping him. A week after he turns 23 years old, Pip learns that his benefactor is the convict he encountered in the churchyard. Abel Magwitch, who had been transported to New South Wales after being captured. He has become wealthy after gaining his freedom there but cannot return to England on pain of death. However, he returns to see Pip, who was the motivation for all his success. Pip is shocked and stops taking money from him. Subsequently, Pip and Herbert Pocket devise a plan for Magwitch to escape from England. Pip returns to Sattie's Hall to visit Estella and meets Bantry Drummond, who has also come to see her and now has Orlick as his servant. Pip accuses Miss Havisham of misleading him about his benefactor. She admits to doing so, but says that her plan was to annoy her relatives. Pip declares his love to Estella, who coldly tells him that she plans on marrying Drummond. Heartbroken, Pip walks back to London, where Wemmick warns him that Compizon is seeking him. Pip and Herbert continue preparation for Magwitch's escape. At Jaggers' house for dinner, Wemmick tells Pip how Jaggers acquired his maidservant, Molly, rescuing her from the gallows when she was accused of murder. Then, full of remorse, Miss Havisham tells Pip how the infant Estella was brought to her by Jaggers and raised by her to be unfeeling and heartless. She knows nothing about Estella's parentage. She also tells Pip that Estella is now married. She gives Pip money to pay for Herbert Pocket's position at Claricers and asks for his forgiveness. As Pip is about to leave, Miss Havisham sets her dress on fire. Pip saves her, injuring himself in the process. She eventually dies from her injuries, lamenting her manipulation of Estella and Pip. Pip now realizes that Estella is the daughter of Molly and Magwitch. When confronted about this, Jaggers discourages Pip from acting on his suspicions. A few days before Magwitch's planned escape, Pip is tricked by an anonymous letter into going to Sleuth's house near his old home, where he is seized by Orlick, who intends to murder him. Orlick freely admits to injuring Pip's sister. As Pip is about to be struck by a hammer, Herbert Pocket and start to arrive and save Pip's life. The three of them pick up Magwitch to row him to the steamboat for Hamburg. But they are met by a police boat carrying Compizon, who has offered to identify Magwitch. Magwitch seizes Compizon and they fight in the river. Seriously injured, Magwitch is taken by the police. Compizon's body is found later. Pip is aware that Magwitch's fortune will go to the crown after his trial. But Herbert, who is preparing to move to Cairo, Egypt, to manage Claricers' office there, offers Pip a position there. Pip always visits Magwitch in the prison hospital as he awaits trial, and on Magwitch's deathbed tells him that his daughter Estella is alive. After Herbert's departure for Cairo, Pip falls ill in his rooms and faces arrest for that. However, Joe nurses Pip back to health and pays off his debt. When Pip begins to recover, Joe slips away. Pip then returns to propose to Biddy, only to find that she has married Joe. Pip asks Joe's forgiveness, promises to repay him, and leaves for Cairo. There he shares lodgings with Herbert and Clara and eventually advances to become third in the company. Only then does Herbert learn that Pip paid for his position in the firm. After working 11 years in Egypt, Pip returns to England and visits Joe, Biddy and their son Pip Jr. Then in the ruins of Satis house he meets the widowed Estella, who asks Pip to forgive her, assuring him that misfortune has opened her heart. As Pip takes Estella's hand and leaves the moonlit ruins, he sees no shadow of another parting from her.